As we think about self-leadership, what is, and I know your answer a little bit on this, so I'm totally teeing up this conversation for our listeners, but what is a practical way that folks can really increase their curiosity as they think about that self-leadership?
This is something that I found a lot of fun. Well, first of all, I had a lot of fun with it, but it's also helped me completely transform my thinking. And it's something that I call a spark day. SPARK. It's an acronym. And so S is for when you stop and you just eliminate all the noise, the distractions, everything that gets in your way. The P is when you can pause and reflect on your goals. So it's a reflection of what's working, what's not. A is assessing where you are and then where you want to be, what's working and what's not. R is to reframe the obstacles. That's kind of that growth mindset component. And then the K is about kindling some of the new ideas. And the idea behind the Spark Day is creating some dedicated time just to think. There was this interesting quote I heard on a podcast the other day, and the gentleman said, it is absolutely impossible and the most uncomfortable thing for us today to be bored. And if you think about that, you're standing in the line at a grocery store. Everyone's looking down on their phones. When you're watching TV, sometimes you'll look around and there are people who are also on their phones while watching a TV show, right? We have an 8-second attention span. We have YouTube Shorts versus YouTube videos. So all of these things have just changed how we think, and it doesn't allow our space in our brain for us to just process, create, ideate, and we don't enable it because we're constantly using our phones. So the one rule with the Spark Day is that you dedicate a specific amount of time, at least once a month, preferably more, and you go in with literally just a notebook and that's it. And allow yourself the opportunity to become bored. Because most of the time our best ideas come when we're in stillness or we're out for a run or we're in the shower or wherever else that people are kind of in these relaxed states. And if we bring the phone with us, even if it's just to have from a timing perspective, you're going to see a notification. Inevitably, you're going to go down a rabbit hole. So the Spark Days would allow us to give ourselves permission to let go, be quiet, be still, and just ideate.
So incredibly important. I was recently on vacation and my phone was stolen and I was having a really hard time unplugging, but the phone being gone, it forced my hand, obviously, right? Like, how do you get unplugged? Well, you have a pickpocket takes your phone. That's how you get unplugged on vacation.
We recommend it on a regular basis, but yes.
Right. We don't recommend it. Put it in your purse when you're in the market, all those things. But it's interesting to think about that because you do come back with a totally reset and refreshed set of thinking and ideas.
Mm-hmm.
It is so hard for us to kind of force ourselves to take that time. It sounds like what you're trying to do is build that into sort of the rhythms of every day. How much should somebody do a Spark Day? You said once a month they should be doing a Spark Day. What does that kind of look like?
It's funny too, because it sounds almost counterintuitive to say you have to schedule time to let yourself be creative, right? But I'm going to use your analogy about going on vacation. Most of us, when we go on vacation, how many days does it take for us to finally decompress?
Yes.
Basically when you leave, right? If you ever do, and then you come back, you've got 1,500 emails in your inbox, all these different things. So what happens is if we're not allowing ourselves to train our brain to think differently on a regular basis, we can't just all of a sudden turn it on at an annual planning meeting or a quarterly offsite. So the intent behind it is to train ourselves, to give ourselves permission to think in a different way on a regular basis. So in an ideal state, what we want to do is you still want to have maybe your daily huddles or your weekly team meetings. And even if you have a monthly strategy session as a team or for yourself to do some of your business planning, but incorporate that time if you can once a week. It's great. I try to do it every Friday where possible, just to kind of reflect and saying, well, what's working, what's not? How do I feel about the work I'm doing? Am I enjoying it, right? Am I working with the right types of content or people or whatever it might be? And what's the new thing that I want to focus on next? And so the more we can bake it in, then it'll enable us to have more impactful monthly meetings, quarterly offsites, and year-end planning sessions, which I also would highly recommend.